She did a lot of things that showed that she was pissed at being reduced from the group leader to a background singer.
That was someone with inside information about the unspoken beef that was going on between Diana Ross and David Ruffin. But it got even worse, and that was when everyone started to see it in real time.
There were times that she would say or do things I said, oh my God.
My dear friends, close your eyes for just a second and come with me. Back to those golden Motown nights. The soul music thick in the air, pounding like a restless heartbeat, heavy with sweat, perfume, and unspoken temptations. David Ruffin, that soaring voice from the Temptations, the man behind hits like My Girl and Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Hid a secret no one was meant to find. A handwritten list of 5 legendary female soul singers he was intimately entangled with, divas whose songs still rule the airwaves. This bombshell didn't come from tabloids. It leaked from his longtime road manager, the trusted shadow who hauled his gear through chaotic tours, guarded his secrets during wild after-hours, and heard confessions that could destroy legends. He finally spilled after years of silence. And it's explosive. 5 women, each with a shocking private habit. One chased the rush of spots where they could be caught any second, outdoors or hidden nooks. Another turned nights into endless marathons, her stamina demanding passion till sunrise. One craved round after round in the same heated session, her hunger insatiable. One loved the electric thrill of more than 2 in the mix, blurring every line. And the last? A bold creator with secret tools and the wildest, riskiest places, balconies high above the city or mirrored rooms full of shadows. Join me on Black Legend tonight. We're unveiling that list for the first time. You ready for the shock? Smash that subscribe button now. Become part of the Black Legend crew and turn on notifications so you catch every soul-shaking reveal. The past is whispering. Don't miss it. Chapter 1. The Thrill Seeker. Tammy Terrell's Shadowy Secret. Oh, my dear old souls, let's step back into the whirlwind of Motown's golden era, where the music was fire and the nights burned even hotter. Our first lady on that infamous secret list? None other than Tammy Terrell, the radiant voice that lit up the charts with her unforgettable duets alongside Marvin Gaye. Remember Ain't No Mountain High Enough? That 1967 smash that soared to the top, her sweet soprano dancing with Marvin's velvet tenor like lovers in the spotlight. Born Thomasina Winifred Montgomery in Philly back in '45, Tammy was a star on the rise, barely 22 when she exploded onto the scene. She had that effortless charm, big eyes, a smile that could melt ice, and a talent that made Berry Gordy himself sit up and take notice. But beneath the glamour, whispers swirled about her wild side, a hidden habit that craved the edge of danger. Yeah, Tammy loved the thrill of the forbidden, those heart-pounding moments in public spots and wide-open outdoors where the risk of getting caught turned every whisper into an electric shock. Picture this. It's March 12, 1967. The air in Chicago thick with the chill of early spring. Lake Michigan's winds whipping through the streets like a jealous ghost. The Motown Revue had just wrapped a sold-out show at the majestic Airy Crown Theater in McCormick Place, that sprawling convention hall on the lakefront, all glass and steel, buzzing with over 4,000 fans who'd screamed themselves hoarse for the Temptations. David Ruffin, fresh off belting My Girl with that piercing falsetto that could shatter glass, was still riding the high, his sharp suit damp with sweat, his eyes scanning the backstage chaos for something, or someone, to keep the adrenaline pumping. Tammy, who'd opened with her own set, was there too, her sequined gown shimmering under the house lights, her laughter cutting through the post-show din like a siren's call. Backstage was a madhouse, roadies hauling amps, groupies fluttering like moths, and the faint scent of reefer mixing with cheap cologne. But Tammy? She wasn't one for the cramped dressing rooms or the predictable hotel hookups. No, her rumored habit kicked in hard that night. As the crowd thinned and the theater's massive doors creaked shut, she grabbed David's hand with a mischievous grin, her fingers electric against his. Not here, she whispered, her voice low and teasing, eyes sparkling with that daredevil fire. "Let's make it real." David, ever the charmer with his own demons lurking, couldn't resist. He followed her out a side exit, the cool night air slapping their faces as they slipped into the shadows of McCormick Place's sprawling grounds. They didn't head to some ritzy downtown spot like the Palmer House Hotel. Oh no, that was too safe, too ordinary for Tammy. Instead, she led him toward the lakefront promenade, that wide-open stretch along Lake Michigan where the waves crashed against the concrete barriers and the city lights twinkled like distant stars. It was public as hell. Joggers out for late-night runs, couples strolling arm in arm, and the occasional cop car cruising by with its spotlight sweeping the darkness. But that's what got her going, the gossip mills say. The rush of almost getting busted, the thrill of the elements biting at your skin while the world carried on oblivious. They ducked behind a cluster of wind-swept trees near Northerly Island. Back then, just a rugged peninsula jutting into the lake, dotted with abandoned expo pavilions from the 33 World's Fair, their crumbling facades casting long, eerie shadows under the moonlight. David later confided to his road manager, that same insider who leaked the list years after, that Tammy was like a storm that night. She pulled him close against a weathered stone wall, the lake's spray misting their faces, her breath hot against his ear as she murmured, "This is how it should be, out here, where anything could happen." The action unfolded fast and furious, stolen kisses turning into frantic embraces, her hands tugging at his tie, his fingers tracing the curve of her back under that glittering gown. But it wasn't just passion, it was peril. A distant siren wailed, headlights flashed from a passing car on Lakeshore Drive, and they froze, hearts hammering, laughter bubbling up in stifled bursts. Tammy thrived on it, that knife-edge balance between ecstasy and exposure. David recounted how she'd whisper challenges, daring him to push further, her voice a mix of playfulness and command, making them keep their voices down amid the rustling leaves and crashing waves. But here's where the shock hits like a freight train, folks. That night of reckless abandon turned dark in ways no one saw coming. As the encounter intensified, fueled by the outdoor high and the post-show buzz, things got rough. Rumors from MOTOWN insiders paint a harrowing picture. In the heat of the moment, amid the tussle on that uneven lakeside ground, David, high on fame and whatever else was in his system, lost control. He swung wildly, maybe in frustration or misplaced passion, and cracked her with something heavy. Whispers say it was his motorcycle helmet he'd grabbed from his bike parked nearby, an impulsive grab in the frenzy. The impact echoed like a thunderclap, leaving Tammy dazed on the cold grass, her head throbbing with a pain that wouldn't fade. She staggered back, blood trickling from a gash, her eyes wide with betrayal. "What have you done?" she gasped, the wind carrying her words away into the night. The aftermath? Pure heartbreak. Tammy, ever the fighter, brushed it off publicly, but those close to her, like her sister Ludi, later revealed the toll. That outdoor escapade, with its mix of thrill and violence, kick-started a cascade of migraines that plagued her for years. Doctors chalked it up to stress, but the rumors persisted. Was it the blow that triggered her brain tumor, diagnosed just months later? By October '67, she collapsed on stage in Virginia, right into Marvin's arms during a duet, a tragic echo of that Chicago night. The tension built, her health crumbling under the weight of secrets and scars. She ended things with David soon after, fleeing the volatility, but the damage lingered. Tammy passed too young in 1970. At just 24, her light snuffed out amid whispers of abuse and lost love. And that was Tammy's daring habit, the lure of the public and the great outdoors, where passion met peril in the most shocking ways. It wasn't just romance, it was a high-wire act that ended in freefall. Stay tuned for the next chapter, because this list only gets wilder. Chapter 2. The Endurance Queen, Diana Ross's Unyielding Desire. Lean in closer, my seasoned friends, as we peel back another layer of that shadowy secret list. Our second diva, the incomparable Diana Ross, the sleek, sophisticated force who fronted the Supremes, turning Motown into a global empire with her razor-sharp style and that voice, oh that voice, like silk wrapped around steel. Born Diane Ernestine Earl Ross on March 26, 1944, right in the heart of Detroit's Brewster Douglas housing projects, Diana clawed her way from humble beginnings. One of 6 kids in a tight-knit family, she dreamed big amid the grit, singing in church choirs, hustling odd jobs, and forming the Primettes with her pals Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard, and Betty McGlown. By 61, they'd signed with Berry Gordy, rebranded as The Supremes, and exploded with a string of #1 hits that defined the decade. Where Did Our Love Go? In 64, Stop, In the Name of Love. In 65, You Can't Hurry Love. In 66, 12 chart toppers in all, making them America's sweethearts, outshining even the Beatles on the pop scene. Diana was the star, her slender frame and big doe eyes captivating Ed Sullivan audiences, her ambition a quiet fire that propelled her to solo stardom by 70, with gems like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and later Oscar nods for Lady Sings the Blues. But fame's flip side? Whispers of her relentless drive spilling into the personal, a hidden habit for marathon encounters that tested limits and left scars. Flash to July 27, 1969. The sweltering heat of Cincinnati clinging like a second skin, the Ohio humidity turning the air into a thick soup. The Supremes were headlining at the Cincinnati Music Hall, that grand Gothic revival beast on Elm Street in Over the Rhine, its red brick towers looming over a crowd of 3,000 screaming fans packed into the ornate auditorium with its crystal chandeliers and velvet seats. Diana, at 25, was at her peak, her black gown hugging her figure like a lover's embrace, her hair teased high in that iconic beehive as she commanded the stage with hits that had the place erupting. David Ruffin, ousted from the Temptations the year before but still touring solo, was in town too, his sharp suits and sharper ego drawing him to the after-party buzz. The music hall's backstage was a labyrinth of narrow hallways and dimly lit green rooms, cluttered with makeup cases, half-empty champagne bottles, and the faint echo of applause fading into the night. As the curtain fell and the house lights dimmed, Diana's rumored endurance kicked in. Not the kind from endless rehearsals, but something deeper, more primal. Insiders, including that road manager confidant, spilled that she craved sessions that stretched like her vocal runs, hours upon hours, a test of stamina where surrender wasn't an option. She was the queen, David allegedly boasted later, and queens don't quit. That night, after mingling in the hall's opulent Springer Auditorium lobby, all marble floors and gilded ceilings, Diana slipped David a knowing glance amid the throng of well-wishers. They didn't bolt for a hotel. No, her habit demanded something sustained, immersive. She led him to a secluded prop storage room upstairs, tucked behind the stage's massive pipe organ, where dusty curtains and forgotten set pieces created a makeshift lair. The door clicked shut, locking out the world, but inside, time warped. What unfolded was a marathon that shocked even Ruffin's wild circle. It started slow, teasing, Diana's fingers tracing his collar, her lips brushing his with promises of eternity. But as the clock ticked past midnight, her drive revved up. Hours blurred, passionate clinches against stacked crates, her demands escalating with each wave. "More," she'd whisper, her voice a sultry command, pulling him back when exhaustion crept in. David, fueled by whatever vices he carried, rumors hint at lines of coke sniffed off a mirrored prop to keep pace, matched her rhythm, their bodies entwined in a relentless dance. Sweat soaked the air, the room's stale scent mixing with her signature perfume as they pushed boundaries. Positions shifting from tender to fierce, her nails digging in as if to anchor the moment. But here's the gut punch shocker. Around the 3-hour mark, as dawn's light seeped through a cracked window overlooking Washington Park, things turned volatile. Diana, in her unyielding pursuit, clashed with David's fading energy. Words flew, escalating to a shove that sent her stumbling into a sharp-edged trunk. A cry echoed, not of pleasure, but pain. Her ankle twisting badly, a sprain that swelled like a betrayal. The fallout? Devastating, in ways that rippled through her empire. Diana limped out at sunrise, her composure cracked, forcing a last-minute tour adjustment, canceling a follow-up gig in Cleveland, blaming exhaustion to the press. But mentally, it shattered her. That marathon habit, born from her perfectionist streak, she'd later admit in bios to pushing limits in all things, from diets to rehearsals, morphed into paranoia. Whispers say it fueled her infamous diva demands, firing band members, clashing with Gordy, as trust eroded. By 70, she left the Supremes amid feuds, her solo path haunted by relationships that burned out fast. Marriages to Robert Silberstein and Arna Ness Jr., both crumbling under her intensity. Health-wise, the stress piled on. Migraines, weight struggles, a 2002 arrest for DUI hinting at deeper escapes. Yet, she rose. Grammys, a Hollywood star, even Kennedy Center honors in 2007. But that Cincinnati night? A pivotal scar, leaked by the road manager as proof of how her never-stop ethos nearly broke her. And that, dear ones, was Diana's unyielding habit, the marathon pursuit that turned nights into battles of will. A queen's endurance, warm in its passion but painful in its price. Hold tight, the list deepens next. Chapter 3. The Insatiable Fire. Mary Wells's Endless Craving. Gather round, my wise old companions, as we uncover the third gem from that clandestine list, a tale woven with the threads of desire and downfall. Enter Mary Wells, the trailblazing queen often hailed as Motown's first superstar, the sassy siren whose smoky alto paved the way for the label's golden age. Born Mary Esther Wells on May 13, 1943. In Detroit's tough black-bottom neighborhood, she grew up amid the grind of poverty, one of 3 kids raised by a single mom who scrubbed floors to make ends meet. Mary's voice was her ticket out. Discovered at 17 singing in a local club, she caught Berry Gordy's ear with a demo for Jackie Wilson. By 61, she was Motown's breakout act, dropping hits like The One Who Really Loves You and You Beat Me to the Punch. But it was My Guy in 64, that infectious finger-snapping number. One smash penned by Smokey Robinson. That catapulted her to fame, topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 2 weeks and making her the first Motown artist to snag a Grammy nod. She was bold, beautiful, with that signature bouffant hair and a wink that could charm the devil. Yet behind the spotlight, rumors swirled of her voracious appetites, not just for success, but for pleasures that burned bright and fast, a habit of demanding encore after encore in the same fevered night, leaving partners gasping for air. Rewind to December 22, 1963, the eve of Christmas, Detroit wrapped in a blanket of fresh snow, the city pulsing with holiday cheer amid the chill. Motown's annual end-of-year bash was in full swing near Belle Isle Park, that lush island oasis in the Detroit River, where the elite gathered at the historic Belle Isle Casino, a grand pavilion with its arched ceilings, polished hardwood floors, and views of the frozen water under twinkling lights. The air was thick with cigar smoke, laughter, and the clink of champagne glasses as stars like the Miracles and the Marvelettes mingled with execs in tuxedos. Mary, at 20, was riding high after her string of hits, her red velvet dress hugging her curves as she worked the room with that magnetic smile. David Ruffin, the Rising Temptations frontman with his piercing eyes and velvet voice, was there too, his charisma drawing eyes like a magnet. The party spilled late into the night, the casino's main hall echoing with live bands playing soulful covers, but Mary's whispered habit, that never-enough drive, was about to ignite. As the crowd thinned around 2 a.m., Mary caught David's gaze across the roulette tables in the casino's gaming lounge, her eyes flashing a challenge. Whispers from Motown vets, leaked through that loyal road manager years later, paint her as the instigator, a woman whose stamina in the studio, She'd record takes until perfection mirrored her private pursuits. Once wasn't her style, the insider dished. She wanted the full show, act after act. They slipped upstairs to a private storage room off the casino's balcony level. A cluttered space stacked with folded chairs, old party decorations, and a faint scent of mothballs mixed with the river breeze seeping through cracked windows overlooking the Detroit skyline. The door latched shut, and what followed was a whirlwind that tested limits like never before. It began with a spark, Mary's hands on his shoulders, pulling him into a heated kiss amid the shadows, her laughter low and inviting. But her habit roared to life. Round one was intense, bodies colliding against a stack of velvet drapes, her demands whispered urgently. "Again," she'd say, barely catching her breath, her energy unflagging as the clock ticked toward dawn. David, caught in the vortex, rummaged for reinforcements, calling down to the bar via the room's intercom for more drinks, bottles of cognac and whiskey arriving discreetly to fuel the fire. Rumors add a shocking twist. As the night wore on, past the third or fourth encore, exhaustion bred tension. Mary, insatiable, pushed for more, her nails raking his back in encouragement, but David faltered. In a haze of fatigue and frustration, amplified by the booze and whatever party favors circulated, he lashed out, a sharp slap echoing in the confined space. Mary reeled back, her cheeks stinging, eyes wide with a mix of fury and hurt. "Is that all you've got?" she allegedly fired back, but the mood shattered like glass. The shocker deepened with insider gossip. That slap wasn't isolated. Whispers from Mary's circle, including her then-husband Herman Griffin, a MOTOWN roadie she'd married at 18, hinted at a pattern of volatile hookups fueling her label woes. Post-night, Mary stormed out into the snowy dawn, her dress disheveled, vowing silence but nursing bruises, physical and emotional. The habit's toll? Immediate and brutal. Kiet's strength set in. She canceled rehearsals the next week, her voice strained from the lack of rest, leading to a rocky 64 where "My Guy" soared, but her Motown ties frayed. Feeling underpaid, she earned peanuts despite millions in sales. She bolted the label in 64 amid lawsuits, hopping to 20th Century Fox and Atco, but hits dried up. Lifestyle shifts followed, rumors of heavier drinking to numb the regrets, multiple marriages, 3 in total, including to Cecil Womack, brother of Bobby, and a slide into addiction by the 70s. Throat cancer struck in 92, blamed partly on chain smoking to cope with the endless nights of her youth, claiming her at 49. Yet her legacy endures. Inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2017, her story a cautionary tune of ambition's dark side. And that, my heartfelt listeners, was Mary's greedy habit. The relentless call for more in one endless night. A flame that warmed but ultimately scorched. Warm in its intensity, painful in its wake. The list calls us onward. Chapter 4. The Shared Flame. Janice Hunter's Crowded Passions. Step with me now, my enduring friends, into the fourth revelation from that guarded secret list. A chapter steeped in the complexities of love, lust, and loss. Meet Janice Hunter, the enigmatic beauty who captured Marvin Gaye's heart as his second wife, a woman whose soft vocals provided backing harmonies on his sultry tracks, adding layers to the soul legend's sound. Born Janice Elizabeth Hunter on January 5, 1956 in Los Angeles, she grew up in a music-infused world, the daughter of jazz singer Slim Gaillard, whose quirky scat style influenced the Beat generation. Janice, or Jan as she became known, was just 17 when she crossed paths with Marvin in 1973 during recording sessions for his Let's Get It On album at Motown's Hitsville West. Their connection was instant and intense. She provided subtle backing vocals on tracks like Come Get to This, her youthful timbre blending seamlessly with his. By September 1974, she gave birth to their daughter, Nona Gaye, who'd later star in films like The Matrix Reloaded, followed by son Frankie in 1975. They married in October 1977, but the union was a storm of passion and pain. Marvin, 17 years her senior, oscillated between adoration and control, while Janice's rumored habit for crowded encounters, craving the thrill of threesomes and shared intimacies, added fuel to the fire. Whispers from biographies like David Ritz's Divided Soul, The Life of Marvin Gaye, paint her as adventurous, drawn to the electric buzz of multiple partners, a vibe that blurred boundaries and invited chaos. Transport yourself to September 6, 1974. The neon-drenched streets of Atlantic City humming with the energy of Marvin Gaye's tour stop at the newly opened Resorts Casino, that sprawling boardwalk behemoth with its Art Deco facade, slot machines chiming like sirens, and showrooms packed for his sultry sets. The air was thick with sea salt, cigar smoke, and the promise of fortune as Gaye delivered hits like What's Going On to a sold-out crowd of 2,000 in the Superstar Theater, his voice a velvet caress amid swirling stage lights. Janice, 18 and glowing with early motherhood, was backstage, her lithe figure in a flowing maxi dress, providing occasional harmonies from the wings. David Ruffin, the exiled Temptations icon with his own tour woes, was in town too, perhaps crashing the scene for old Motown camaraderie, his sharp features and sharper temper drawing him into the afterglow. The casino's backstage area was a warren of luxury suites and dressing rooms, velvet-walled havens off the main floor where champagne flowed and secrets simmered. As the applause faded around midnight, Janice's alleged threesome vibe, that penchant for the crowded feel, where intimacy expanded beyond two, ignited the night. Rumors, leaked by Ruffin's road manager confidant and echoed in Ritz's bio, describe her as the spark. Drawn to the adrenaline of shared ecstasy, she thrived on inviting a third into the mix, turning encounters into symphonies of sensation. That evening, after mingling in the casino's high roller lounge, all crystal chandeliers and roulette wheels spinning like fate, Janice pulled David aside with a flirtatious glance, her eyes hinting at adventure. They didn't retreat to a penthouse. Instead, she chose Marvin's dressing room, a plush space behind the theater stage, cluttered with makeup mirrors, half-empty bottles of Hennessy, and the faint echo of slot jackpots from below. The door locked, and what ensued was a whirlwind that shocked the soul circuit. It started with whispers, Janice's hands guiding David closer, her laughter light but loaded, as she confessed her craving for more than two hearts beating together. Rumors add a jaw-dropping layer. She orchestrated the vibe, pulling in a third participant. Whispers say it was a backup musician from Marvin's band, a tall bassist named James Jamerson Jr., son of the legendary Motown session player who'd been lingering post-show. The action unfolded in a haze, bodies entwining on a leather chaise longue, mirrors reflecting the tangle of limbs, Janice at the center, her demands for shared rhythms echoing Marvin's layered harmonies. David, swept up, later bragged to pals about the electric thrill, but exhaustion and excess bred volatility. Around the 2-hour mark, as the casino's nightlife pulsed outside, tensions spiked. David's possessiveness clashed with the setup, leading to a heated shove that sent Janice tumbling against a vanity table, her elbow cracking a mirror in a shatter of glass and screams. The shocker amplified through insider tales. Marvin, wrapping a late meet and greet in the lobby, burst in mid-chaos, catching David mid-button-up and the third fleeing. Enraged, he smashed a nearby car windshield. Rumor says it was Ruffin's rented Cadillac parked in the valet lot, with a stage prop, shards flying like accusations. Janice, bruised and tear-streaked, fled the scene, the night's crowded high crumbling into regret. The fallout? Catastrophic, ripping through her marriage like a fault line. That affair, one of several, rumors link her to Teddy Pendergrass in 1980 and Frankie Beverly, eroded trust. Marvin's jealousy fueled abuse, as detailed in Jan's 2015 memoir, After the Dance, where she recounts orgies he forced to watch, blending love with torment. They divorced in 1981 after 4 years, amid custody battles and Marvin's spiraling addictions. Post-split, Janice's life shifted. She battled night terrors, retreated from the spotlight, and focused on raising Nona and Frankie, who pursued music. Health woes mounted, a 1990s lupus diagnosis, and she passed on December 3, 2022, at 66 in Rhode Island. Her obituary noting the tumultuous Marvin years, but celebrating her resilience. Yet the habit's echo lingered, a shared flame that warmed briefly but burned bridges forever. And that, my soulful kin, was Janice's crowded habit, the allure of threesomes and beyond, a vibe that electrified but ultimately fractured, warm in its daring, painful in its price. The list beckons us to the finale. Chapter 5, The Wild Innovator, Chaka Khan's Eccentric Edge. My cherished old souls, we've reached the climax of that forbidden list, a story bursting with the raw energy of soul's queen herself, Chaka Khan. Born Yvette Marie Stevens on March 23, 1953, in Chicago's Navy Pier area, Chaka grew up in a vibrant, chaotic family of 5 kids, her Panamanian and African-American roots fueling a voice that roared like thunder. Joining Rufus in the early 70s, she exploded with hits like Tell Me Something Good, 1974, co-written by Stevie Wonder. But it was Ain't Nobody in 1983, that infectious, synth-driven #1 R&B smash with its pleading hooks, that cemented her as a solo icon, earning a Grammy and defining 80s funk. With 10 Grammys total, inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 2023 with Rufus, and a career spanning over 50 years, Chaka's powerhouse belts influenced everyone from Whitney to Adele. But beneath the glamour, rumors from her 2003 memoir, Chaka, through the fire and insider bios whisper of her creative habit, a love for props and bizarre spots, turning encounters into experimental escapades that shocked even the boldest. Cut to October 1980. Philadelphia's crisp fall air buzzing with post-concert vibes at the Warwick Hotel in Rittenhouse Square, that elegant 1920s tower with its marble lobby and skyline views, where Chaka was staying during a Rufus tour stop at the Spectrum Arena. She'd just slayed a set for 18,000 fans, her wild curls and sequined jumpsuit dripping sweat. David Ruffin, in town for a solo gig, crashed the after-party in the hotel's lounge, his eyes locking on Chaka's fiery presence. As midnight struck, her rumored quirk emerged. Not content with routine, she craved tools, silk scarves, feathers, or improvised gadgets, and odd locales for that rush of novelty. They snuck to her suite's balcony on the 20th floor, overlooking the twinkling Schuylkill River, wind whipping as city lights danced below. Chaka, ever the innovator, pulled out supports from her bag. Rumors say velvet ties and a feather tickler, directing the scene with bold commands. David, stunned by her initiative, followed as they balanced on the railing's edge, the height amplifying every touch. But the shock hit. In the frenzy, amid props and perilous perch, David slipped, grabbing wildly. A shove sent Chaka teetering, her scream piercing the night as she caught the ledge, bruising her ribs against cold metal. That's a cascade of chaos. Chaka, shaken, ended it abruptly, but the habit's toll deepened her 1979 coke spiral, leading to a 1983 overdose scare and rocky marriages. 3 total, including to Richard Holland. She lost custody of her kids in the 80s, stepping back from music in 2016 for family, her voice strained by excesses. Yet she rebounded with collabs like Ariana Grande's Nobody remix in 2019. And that, dear ones, was Chaka's most creative habit. Tools and twisted spots, a spark that dazzled but nearly destroyed. Warm in its flare, painful in its fall. The list closes here, but the echoes linger.